Did you bring
Morning, Paul.
something?
Oh, did you want a packet?
Yeah, whatever. I mean, if
Morning,
there's-
Patricia.
Get it afterwards.
Why don't you go over that one?
This is a spare one, so.
Okay.
Perfect.
We are live.
Okay, everybody, you're on
Paul, you're
TV
having a
now.
Good hair day today.
What's that?
I said Paul's having a good hair day today. The haircut worked out well. You were getting a little afro there for a while.
It happens when you have curly hair. I used to. It's all gone now.
And Patricia, you're having a great hair day too.
Thank you.
John, you too. I like you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we don't want to leave
Yeah,
anybody
we don't
out.
leave anybody out because,
All right, it's 9 o'clock. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So we have to have roll call. Set the agenda.
Commissioner Bonnet,
Here,
Commissioner Sotis Little,
Here,
thank you. Then we'll do approval of the minutes from October 8th, 2020.
move to approve the minutes from October 8th, 2020 as presented.
All right, I second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, the same sign. The motion passes. So then approval of the agenda,
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. If we have any, we're at public comment. If we have any public comment, the number to call is 231-256-9 or 8109. 231-256-8109. So then that would bring us to, and we'll take a call if it comes in, but we'll just move on to the action items then. First of all, the 2020 budget review. Did you want to?
It's included in the packet there.
Yeah.
We're still down year to date. We did have a better month at the end of last month. I haven't finalized everything, but the numbers there were up at least for last month, but we're still down a little.
which has been pretty consistent since the spring.
Yeah,
And so that's as far as revenue, right?
correct.
It's not as far as expenses. Has your expenses been more than your
No,
revenue?
they're right about the same as what they have been.
So you just haven't been able to put in the set aside the reserves as much this year as you have been last few years?
We'll be using some of the reserves.
You actually will be using
Yeah.
some?
I'm
Okay.
sure we probably will, which we anticipate, which is why we have a large
Right,
fund
right.
balance.
Well, that's what I was just wondering, and and that's what, in the downturns, that's the idea of the
Yeah.
reserve, because you still got to do inspections, you still got to do all the things you have to do.
And I'm thinking even with the anticipated loss this year, funds balance still will be greater than it was 2 and 3 years ago, because we had a very good year over the last couple of years.
Yeah,
So that's why we haven't made any reductions, because it's hard to reduce. I mean,
right.
really, the only reduction we can make is in staffing, and they're all doing inspections. It's just, we were shut down there pretty much from mid-March through beginning of May.
So, Will, if you look at page 3 there, it shows the year-to-date revenue, expenses. So it's not a lot of money. It's still 30-some thousand dollars. That's the adjusted balance with the current fund balance, that line item there. Shows our
31,000, right?
Shows our revenues and shows our expenses.
Yeah,
So we're not dipping, we may not even dip into it. It's possible.
you mean if these last 2 months come through with,
How it-
an
how it
extra
all-
31,000?
Right.
which is good, because I was really worried that it'd be much
Yeah,
more.
it is a concern for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you look from, let's say, June 1st on, we're on target.
Yeah, you probably did as well as last year or close to it.
The numbers were down,
They still were down.
yeah.
Okay.
But we changed the process for revenue intake as well the previous year. So we don't have a good year-to-year comparison because this year we had the COVID outbreak.
Right.
Last year we changed our revenue intake. So this would have been the year to do a good comparison, and
You still don't.
with COVID, you can't have a fair.
And Amber, you may want to explain what that means. You change your revenue.
When I say we changed the revenue, I mean that we changed the plan review process. So now instead of taking the total balance of a building permit upfront, it's done at the end. So instead of revenue in at the beginning of the month, it's more at the end of the month, which could mean even the next month, depending on where you're at in plan review. So you're taking the base payment, 125 or 150 upfront, and the rest of it that covers the cost of inspections comes in when the permit is ready.
So you're actually taking the expenses as they're accrued, not, upfront, and then the expenses come later. As you cover the cost, then you take the revenue for it.
Yeah, so if you're looking for inspections before your permit's ready, then yes, that would be a situation like that.
Well, that's good. Is that like called accrual, or is that different, or cash basis, or as far as accounting, or don't we really know?
The way it started was it in the past, the office staff would figure out what the price of the permit was, and it didn't always reflect properly. And the reason it didn't was because the plan reviewers were the building inspectors. So then they would go through the plans, and there would, on a lot of occasions, be discrepancies. And it was only because the office staff didn't understand a set of building plans, and they were making a judgment on how much the plan would cost. And what we found, they've actually come down a little bit because we take the $125 up front as a down payment. Then the plans go back to the plan reviewers. They do all the plan review, figure out the square footages, and then a dollar amount is figured out. So that's the reason that we're doing it differently now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because you're doing for the actual cost,
Yeah,
not just a flat fee.
Right.
right.
And I assume the contractors are happy with that, right?
Yes, because they're getting an accurate fee
Yeah,
this year.
yeah, so
It's accurate.
Yeah. Patricia, did you have any questions about that?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay. Well, very good. I like that. Thank you.
It's an accurate way of looking at it.
So compared to what we thought we may be facing in March and April,
Right.
till now, we're actually in very good shape.
Much
Because
better.
there's plans that haven't been
Build.
officially assessed yet, that they have been put in, they've collected $125, but they've not been through the total plan review process to get the final fee for everything that's involved in
Yeah,
that
so there's
plan.
pending revenue.
Right.
Yeah, from the month of November's intake that will be received in December.
Great. Anything else?
No.
All right. Then we move on to number 2, personnel update.
Yeah, just an update, as you both know, we're having 2 vacancies. Mr. Hunter got permission from his wife finally to retire as of beginning of April. And so Paul's gonna go on to a
It
new
was
chapter of
difficult.
his life. Right, Paul?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yes, yeah. And then Ted Klump is retiring February 12th or middle of February.
Yep, mid-February, yep.
And so tomorrow on the board agenda, I'm requesting permission with the new policy in place to fill both of those slots here.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's critical. We are revenue-based, so it's not county tax dollars. So I recommend we fill both those slots.
Yeah. That's really unfortunate, but yeah, we understand it. I'm sure it will change everything
Yeah, it's
again,
gonna
you
be a
know?
big change.
Ted's been there for 21 years,
Yeah.
Yeah,
so he's well-liked in the community, and he's good at what he does, and the respect that he has from the people in the field is,
He's gonna be missed.
Yeah.
Paul. things have finally settled down over there.
Yeah.
And now we're gonna disrupt them all again. Paul.
Hopefully not.
And
I know it. That's.
we are
Hopefully it's
checking the
gonna be
Michigan, we are checking the Michigan code if electricians have to wear short pants all the time.
Yeah.
Because because Ted was, he put, Patricia, he finally put some long pants on last week.
Oh, my
First of
gosh.
December.
First of December.
First of
It got crisp enough for him, huh?
Yeah, so we're gonna check the code, see if that's in the post, whether that has to be part of it or not, so. No, so we're gonna miss both Paul and Ted
Oh,
and their
yes.
smiling, happy faces.
Yes.
And so, but life goes on, and they're both moving on to new chapters of their life, which is good. Which is good. Paul, you've been in the business for how many years total?
Well, in inspections since 93.
And you work with the state, and you work with the tribe, and you work at the
Yeah, I
county,
worked
so you've
for
got
Otsego County also.
a broad spectrum of experiences. So thank you, both of you, for your services.
Yeah. It's been really wonderful working with you.
We've come a long ways when you think about where we were a couple years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
But life goes on, and
And he's kept
We'll get
Amber
through it.
busy, and that's the important thing.
Yeah, she always needs a challenge.
Yeah.
Sometimes I go back and think, oh, I better figure something out here for her to.
the
Jump
truth
into-
is, Amber's kept him busy. We won't say that for the record. Oh, it is being recorded, so I guess I have to say it for the record. Okay. Anyway,
All right, so then we have a deadline, timeline for appeals.
Yeah,
Construction code.
let me talk about this one. And, you know, we had an appeal here last, probably 2 months now ago, from a case that was several years old. We found out the state code for appeals does not have a deadline date. Counties can put deadline dates. Our attorney told us quite a few have deadline dates. We have never had a case like this. Since I've been here, we've had a total of 2 appeal cases in 8 years. This was by far the most unique. This is a Northport situation. And as we looked at it and we did the research, we found we probably should have an appeal date on it, a timeline. Because right now, someone could appeal a case from 10 years ago, and we'd have to have a hearing. And so, Amber, you want to say what the timeline is, or Paul, or what you came up with?
Well, we talked about it quite a bit and looked into it, and we figured 90 days. And I think the attorney thought that would be a good number too, didn't he?
Well, I suggested 9 days. He said, yeah, that'd be, I can't imagine a situation where they would not, where they could have a legitimate case after 90 days. Most appeals happen right after an incident or a situation,
Correct.
and they want clarification.
Where is it in these
It's
documents?
the first document, the one procedure for Construction Board of Appeals meetings. It's in that first paragraph. Appeals
Oh, yeah, I
must
see
be
right
made
at
within
the
90 days.
So we're keeping the process.
I
the
knew I
same.
read it, but I couldn't,
Yeah.
looking down, I couldn't find it.
But we thought 90 days was a good timeline.
Shouldn't it be on this also on the Construction Board of Appeals procedure rules?
I wasn't sure where to fit it in with the other one. And looking at these 2 documents, I was going to try and combine them, but one is almost how that meeting
Meeting runs.
operates, and the other one is how our department prepares for that.
If the 2 of you agree with the 90 days, we'll come up with documents to the January board meeting.
Okay.
It
Yeah,
has to be
because,
approved by the board.
yeah, because I think it should be on both documents. That was the only thing. Even if it's a footnote, you know, just so if somebody doesn't pull this out to do it and it's not on there,
Right.
you know, then it could say we have to follow that, you know, because that is the rules for the appeal procedures. That was the only thing I thought about. I knew it was in there, but it
Yeah.
wasn't on both.
That's a good
pages.
idea. It should be both.
You know, like you said, even if it's a footnote or something on there that, just so they know. Did you have any questions about it, Patricia?
No, I just, when I was reading through the procedure, it says a date will be set for the meeting to take place. It doesn't deal with anything in terms of if there's a conflict for the person who's appealing, there might be a valid reason why they couldn't make a particular date. I'm assuming there's flexibility in that. Or is it just going to be set and told this is the date?
I don't think we'd have flexibility.
Yeah, there's flexibility with that. We usually pick a date that works well on our side, and then we confirm with the individual that that works as well. and then we move forward from there.
Also members of the board too,
Yeah.
the appeal board.
So, well, that makes sense. I just could see.
But just to give you an example, the last one we had, we contacted all the members of the appeal board first with a date, and then we contacted the individual.
But I thought the rest of it looked good, and I think the suggestion that Will just made would be useful to have it on both documents if you're going to maintain both. So,
Just
Do we
because
need
it
a
is sort of a
motion
new
on that?
rule, yeah. You know,
It would help have a motion to pass on to the
Yeah.
meeting.
and are we replacing anything, or is this
No,
neither?
just
have been
adding a date.
before? Okay.
The process is the same, everything's the same, except there's a deadline date to appeal.
Okay, so the
So-
process is an amendment.
The dates, the 90 days is the amendment to it.
Okay,
That's the procedure that's been changed. That was added in, it wasn't in there previously.
before, okay.
So would you have a motion to move this on to the board?
Yes, and do you want them done separately, or can we do them together?
We can do them together.
Okay,
It's just because it's going to have to be formally done by the board as
Right.
well.
so I would move that we, on one more question here, we're going to recommend approval to the board, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
I would, yes.
I would move that we recommend approval to the Board of Commissioners of procedure for Construction Board of Appeals meeting and
Procedural
Leelanau
rules.
County Construction Board of Appeals procedural rules.
Support. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 2-1, 2-0. So that's great. Then that brings us then to the single permit fee for affordable houses.
Yeah, Mr. Bach, this was your idea, actually, that you brought up in the board meeting. So we talked about it. John or Paul? Amber? Who wants to take the lead on it?
Would you
I'll take the
come
lead
up
on
with
that.
what your thoughts, how you laid it out?
We took
Be
your notes and suggestions that you guys gave us at the last meeting to come up with defined minimums that people would have to meet for these permits. So that's what you see in the bulleted items there, that a house would be 1,100 square feet in size, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, a furnace and an air conditioner. And then the fees do not include garages, finished basements, any kind of add-ons like porches or decks. If you're going to add anything else, it's just strictly a box.
Right.
That's what the fee entails. And I did 2 different workups, one with a crawl space, because that is a slightly different fee, and then one with the unfinished basement. So those are the flat fees there for, a single family dwelling on a crawl or a single family dwelling on an unfinished basement. That is exactly what that fee would be for the entire project. That's the electrical permit, mechanical, plumbing, as well as the building. All of that fee is worked in there. That's what that would be. Yes.
I just a question. So it has to have 3 bedrooms?
Yes, that's the minimum we came up with.
Okay. So I mean, if they did 2 bedrooms, then it wouldn't qualify?
Then that would fall into that second category you guys mentioned too, where they would do a percentage. So maybe they don't meet those minimums, but they're in that gray area Patricia talked about, where maybe there's something else going on and they still should qualify, but they don't meet those minimums, then they would apply for that percentage off. So
Okay,
we'd go a different route. There still would be a cost break, but it'd be different.
okay. Because, go ahead, Patricia.
I had some concerns about the same thing. I looked out on Networks Northwest and on the internet, just looking at some sample 1,100 square feet. Most of them are 2 bedrooms and 1.5 baths that are, unless it's a tiny house. And they're done on 2 levels. I'm wondering if either we drop the minimum or alter it to say 2 to 3 on the bedrooms, or increase the size of the space by another 100. Because you get into the 1,200 and it seemed to be at that break that there were more 3-bedroom options that seem to be available. And you folks deal with these records every day, so you know a lot more about this than I do. But I just got a little concerned that philosophically, with affordable housing, you want to try to keep it so that it fits into a neighborhood and it doesn't look like affordable housing. And if we don't allow the fee to apply to any of the add-ons, a finished basement or a garage is pretty important, or at least a carport. I'm wondering if we're kind of providing a little stigmatization there. Maybe not. I just toss that out for discussion, but at the minimum, I'd hope that either we increase square footage or we indicate 2 to 3 bedrooms, because it's an awful lot to get into 1,100 square feet and make the rooms of any usable size. That'd be my only comment. I applaud your work on this. Well done. Well, and the other thing is, I want to be sure I'm understanding correctly. If they didn't fit into that, then they would fall in the 7.5 to 11% only of 100%.
They would receive a percentage off that total, between 7.5% and 11% at the building official's determination. So he or she would review the documentation submitted and make a determination based on their situation and what was submitted as to what percentage they would receive off that total that's listed above.
So not 50% or 25%, that's a pretty low, if I'm interpreting this correctly. It's not a significant amount off, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
When you take the total off that project, it basically gives them a permit for free.
Okay.
One of those project permits would be basically given for free.
Okay. Thanks, Amber.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure I was
Member
in.
of or John, Paul, in terms of the annual permits you get a year, how many of them you think would fall in this category percentage-wise?
Not very many.
I would say it can't be very many, is it?
No.
These descriptions are almost exactly the new project that we finished in Northport. Now, there's 4 units there. I don't know if it has a name,
Yeah.
but there's 4 houses there. There are 3 bedrooms, 2 baths on a crawl. 1 has a basement, no garage. They do have an entry deck, but it's an entry. So they're very similar to this. There's another one down on Bingham Road, that duplex that is being built. They're similar to this in size and
That's the one I was thinking of, and that's because we wired that.
in size and scope. They're similar.
Yeah, that was only 2-bedroom, but it did have 2 baths.
So John, probably less than 10%?
Yeah,
Less, is it 5%, do you think?
it's really low.
It's small?
It's really low.
So we're
We
talking-
just don't build much of this type of house in Leelanau County.
And the other one I thought about is the one on Otto Road in 633. It's completed, I think, last year, but that didn't have a garage. It was just a regular, it's almost a modular that went in place.
And a corner,
Yeah,
that is a modular.
okay. So that really wouldn't qualify, that already is set
That's
up?
not a stick built.
Right,
That's a whole different formula.
Yeah.
okay. So that wouldn't qualify for this then?
They get, the fee on those is half what the cost of full living is anyway, because it's pre-built. So instead of
Okay.
$90 a square foot, it's 45.
Okay,
Yeah.
And then they pay full cost for whatever they do for their foundation work.
yeah. So in those, and there's not that many of those brought in either, are there?
There's a good hand.
Modulars, there's a fair amount, but a lot of them are, you can't tell, they're huge.
Yeah,
They're really big. Multi-level, attached garage, full finished basements. But they're substantially larger than this,
yeah,
most of them.
okay.
So just because there's so few houses, I'm just throwing this out to try to achieve our goal. It would have virtually no impact on your budget, a lower fee. Because you have so few of them. let's say you get 5% of houses that qualify this. Could you make it lower than 1,481? Would you say a flat fee of $1,200? I just throw it out there.
Then it would be a losing proposition when they do a house like that, wouldn't that?
The problem becomes without looking at all the separate, I mean, because I went
Yeah.
through the trades
Yeah.
and I added all the minimums in there. It's hard to
I understand.
deduct all that without running the numbers a second time on
I
it.
mean, if you look at a 7% decrease, that's not much of an incentive.
I didn't run them at the 7.
No, I'm just saying, I'm just
Yeah.
guessing,
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the numbers here.
Mhm.
It's not much of an incentive.
Because that's what the purpose is try to incentivize, you know, whether you want to call it affordable or workforce or, you know, the workers' homes, to try to have those built in Leelanau County to bring people here, because we need younger people. We need to have people who can work in the schools, work in the inspections department, that kind of stuff. So it's trying to, but I don't want it so that it hurts the inspections department. That would not be good.
Right.
So,
You have so few homes that would qualify. If you were to
right.
take a loss on a couple of them, if you look at the whole year budget, it really would have virtually no impact on your operations.
Because for example, what we did at that Northport, all the homes were very similar. So we only charged one plan review fee.
Yeah, I saw that in
So
here.
that kind of,
Yeah.
that was
Yeah,
quite
that
a
goes into
savings.
the other one. That's if it's a developer that's doing it.
Right. And that really was a developer, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So,
Which that was a substantial savings in that project.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
So instead of charging 4 plan reviews, you charge 1.
Right,
Is the plan
because
basically-
the homes were,
Yeah.
they were exactly the same, but they were
They would,
transposed.
yeah, they would flip flop.
And which it doesn't change the plan review. Once you've done the nuts and bolts of it, whether it's the right side or the left side, it's,
So even that duplex would be the same thing, each
Right.
one of those, they're exactly the same,
that's,
but that's a little different.
that's a little different because that's a duplex.
Right.
And there's more involved in a duplex because we have 2 separate units, single-family dwellings with a common firewall between, and there's more for us to look at.
Okay,
So there's different codes, right?
Yes,
okay.
just because of the way they're smushed together.
Yeah.
It-
Well, that makes sense.
Well, I don't know, I like it, it just still seems, I like, Chet said, I was hoping that it would be a little bit less, and 11% is more, if we can, could do it to that, that's kind of what we're trying to hope is that.
Do you have the, Amber, the breakdown for the trades for those
I
in front
do.
of you?
I don't have the breakdown on those. I
Yeah.
know the mechanical is a minimum because we already revamped that one.
Yeah,
So that is 290, covers inspections and then the whole heating system.
So I just throw this out, what would be the negative consequences if you lowered the total project, if the foundation crawl space to 1,100 and the other one to 1,200? The impact on your budget would be virtually nil since you have so few homes that would qualify, but it would be a bit of a savings for the homeowners, for someone starting to build up.
how do we, make sure that the savings is going to the homeowner?
But you can't, I mean, that's,
So,
Yeah.
so really you're helping the builder.
well, and hope the builder would turn that savings down to, you'd hope, yeah, I mean, there's no way we can control that.
I'm just throwing that out there, so
Right.
really the only person that's taking the money loss is us. We're not giving it to the person that deserves it and needs it.
Well, unless they're building it themselves, which usually they're not, though. You're right. So it could end up just for the builder. I hadn't thought about that. That's a very good
Well-
point.
The builders I've always worked with were very reputable. It would go, but That was just my
Yeah,
experiences.
I mean, that's their goal, to lower it, the
Right.
net cost, so hopefully the builders would view it that way too.
Patricia.
One way to ensure that happens would be through transparency. You know, that the homeowner is aware, or some requirement, if it's, you know, this is for a particular person, it's not just being built spec to be sold, I assume. But if the homeowner is made aware that this is the arrangement, that they should look to see in those costs, that indeed is being reflected. That would be one way I would think we could ensure it, is just through open transparency. And if it is a spec home, then I don't think it applies, because you're saying developers must, you know, this doesn't apply to people developing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, there's no way you would know whether the builder just added the cost somewhere else. I mean, yes, on the paper it would say cost was $1,200, but he could, or she could put the money somewhere else. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no way we could ever control that.
No, no, it just is just a little accounting there that
Yeah.
helps the process.
But if you go with the goal that Will had about lowering the cost, that's,
Well, this
How
is
we got
lower.
this
This
stuff.
is lower. We're giving
So-
them one permit free, basically, you know, through this system. And it's obviously better than what we had, you know, and it might hopefully simplify it for you some too, you know, so that at least we're trying to do something to help out. And it may help the builder, but then it may encourage him to build more, which we need as well.
That's true.
You know, so either way, it helps Leelanau County, but I think John has a point in that we don't want the inspections department to suffer at the cost so that the builder benefits. I mean, it's a tough situation, and you know.
Well, it is a low amount, but a loss is a loss
Yes,
in business. So you
right.
gotta keep that in mind. What about an idea of I think you and I discussed it. I don't know how you do it, but some kind of rebate check to the owner instead of reduced fees. Because we're already playing with percentage numbers.
Yeah.
but
yeah.
if the contractor's one with names on the permit and everything, how do we legally do that?
Well, you have a person with a certificate of occupancy. I mean, they own it.
Yeah.
I just threw that out there. That way you could ensure where the incentive is going to.
Yeah.
I don't know if it could even be done.
It definitely would not be an easy thing to do. It would be
No.
much more difficult than this was putting this together. Because like Chet pointed out, the way this works is whoever pays the money goes back to that person. We have a lot of cases where a project gets canceled, some kind of discrepancies happen between the homeowner and the contractor. The homeowner asks for the refund. The homeowner can't get the refund because they did not pay that. The whole refund always goes to the contractor, and this would be a little more difficult to do with a rebate situation.
Yeah, I don't like that rebate, even you go to the store.
I don't either.
You know.
Yeah.
I never use it. I throw it out.
That's what they're counting on.
That's well, I know. You get 11% at Menards.
And that
Well,
means you gotta use it back in the store.
yeah, you got to spend
Not
it.
paperwork, you gotta wait 6 weeks or 8 weeks.
Well, it's even longer than that.
Is
It's
it?
been 3-4 months that it's taken to get a rebate. I mean, it's ridiculous. So,
Well, just throwing that out there too, that as
yeah,
a method.
so,
I guess the question is, for all the extra work this would take, is it worth it? And will it really encourage anyone?
well, I think this would work. It's a matter of, do we try to lower it more or just leave it like it is and try this system? See if we can encourage people to do it, and I think it's worth it. And we could even advertise it as reduced rates for houses, and we're encouraging, workforce housing
Maybe
rather than
Eric,
call it affordable.
maybe Eric Carlson would write a story about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some minor issue. Is there a downside? I mean, it causes a little more work on your part, right?
It does on the admin side and intake. It will definitely take some creativity as far as processing it. It may be that the reduction has to go exclusively to building and we retain the trade permits at their original fee because everybody applies at a different time.
Right.
See, the electrical usually
Oh, I
comes in
know.
first because they want to get the service up and going, but plumbing mechanical might not come until they're closer to the rough stage. So
Right.
trying to break out a fee for every one of them will be difficult, but if you could do it on the building side specifically.
So are you saying you need more time to work this all out? I hate to pass something and not have all the procedure in place.
Right.
Right.
Do you
And
need
I-
more time for, but I think if you come to the board, you need to have it all laid out. This is how we're gonna do it. And I got the impression we're not there yet. Is that true?
Maybe not 100% there. I'd say like 75%. Taking the feedback from you guys too with what you want to see. There could be areas where we could tighten it up and make it, maybe even better for people too.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of kind of getting our heads together on it too.
Well, and I don't know that we want to do percentages. I don't know that, I think that just complicates it more and more and more. I don't know what you guys feel, but I'm saying that, if it's 1,100 square feet and they go with 2 bedrooms or 2 or 3 bedrooms and two baths or 1 1/2, they can reduce those things down, but then it's still that set fee. So it gives them some flexibility in what the criteria are, but the price stays the same. So you don't have to calculate. I just think trying to go with percentages just creates a complication that every time they change something, it makes it more complicated for you.
That's a good point. And also, if you have a range between 7.5 and 11, who's gonna, I could see where that'd be a little bit of politics. How come he got 8% off, how come we get 7% off?
Or where do you apply it?
Yeah.
And at what point do you cut it off? And so I thought if we expanded what's allowed in it and that fee is there, we don't necessarily have to go with the larger square footage. It's just if they go at that size of a house and how they want to build it, and if it has a basement, you got this one price, and if it doesn't, it's that price.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I like the idea that you took it from those examples there, because to me, those were the workforce or affordable housing or whatever we want to call it. But we try to make it so it's much plainer and there's no figuring out this is what it is. And if they go over that, well, then they just go to the regular thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it definitely would simplify it on our end.
That's what I'm trying to do, is look at how we can do it so it doesn't get more complicated for you. They come in with a house that's, 1,000 square feet and it fits part of this, they get that one price. And if they make it 1,100, it's still anything that's that or smaller.
Right.
Would that?
Yeah, we could do
I
that. We
like
could
that.
change the bedroom as well, Patricia, as you suggested. We could do 2 to 3.
2 to 3, and is Will just add a bath or a bath and a half, that gives that flexibility for them to do what they need to do within the 1,100 square feet. I think that works. And then I like the flat fee. That works. And hopefully it does relieve a lot of work for you folks.
Right, because that's what I'm trying, I don't want it to be more work there and harder, and we start, trying to dice it up, and if they put a garage on, well, then it disallows it, and you have to just go with the regular fee.
Be some other criteria in there, though, I think, that we're gonna have to work on.
Yeah.
Because I think one of the things we might be missing is, John and I have looked at 1,200, you've worked at them too, where these people will build a 1,200 square foot house, so they have marble countertops, jacuzzi tubs, because they want to build that small house. And this house is just off the rails as far as cost. So somehow coming up with some other criteria in there too to meet that affordable housing.
Yeah.
That's going to be difficult though. That's going to be kind of.
So I don't know that we want to get into that, and that's why maybe we keep it at 1,100, because that's a small house. Those people who are, let's say they're retirees and they're moving up from somewhere, they want a smaller house, but they're gonna spend $500,000 on it and they're done or whatever.
Yeah.
That's not what we're trying to do here. So.
No.
But I don't know that you can.
We don't need to have this is not time sensitive, so.
Right.
Keep working, but I don't want to take anything to the board until we have it all worked out.
Okay.
But I think, what you said, because I know we built those condos in Lake Leelanau, and it was the same thing, retired, it wasn't meant for retired couples, but that's what moved in some cases.
Yeah.
And their income sufficed and fit in there. And so if we try to cover all those things, we won't get what we want, you know? So I know what you're saying, but there's always some downsides to what you do.
Yeah, I think you would have some discrimination issues too there. if you
Right.
start doing that.
Yeah, so I don't really want to try to say,
Well, I think the perfect solution is Paul needs to come up with a great policy before he retires.
Okay. We'll
He
get
can't leave until he comes up with a policy.
You know, Chet, I'm just surprised that you didn't point out to Paul that there was that clause in his contract that says you can't retire? You missed
Well,
that?
not
one?
until this policy is approved, yeah. I've been working with his wife on that clause. She and I still are in negotiations.
so I really appreciate the work you put in, and I'm sorry that we're critical of it, but I
No, we appreciate that.
No,
We
we
back
did,
and forth and
yeah. It's a
discussion on it
tough
is,
one.
Oh, good.
yeah, we
Well, I think
appreciate
that's a
that.
great first step here.
It really
so
is.
I think
It really
progress
is.
has been made.
I was kind of excited about it.
Yeah.
The one thing might not be clear, the last thing about garages, finished basements, porches, decks, those are all things when they're on a house, require additional inspections and more stringent requirements. So if they're not, attached garage, for instance, adds a whole new level of
Right.
inspecting, fire protecting and requirements, and a deck or a covered porch, all add more complexity to the permit and in the inspecting too. So without those items on there, the inspections get much easier.
Yeah.
On the admin side, it's so open-ended for them. You could build a 1-car garage, 2-car, 3-car, it could be any size. It could be
Storage above,
same with your porches and decks. You might want just a little grilled porch, but the next guy wants a giant covered porch wraparound. Everybody's too
Right.
variable for that.
Well, and yeah, I guess that's why I'm saying if we put the variables that are allowed in this, and then the set price, if they go away from that, then they're going to go back to the regular,
right.
they don't, so that this is just an affordable home, and that's it for somebody who's going to be the janitor here or wherever, that they can live in Leelanau County. And then when they get enough, then they can add their garage on, and that's totally separate,
Right.
or they finish their basement, that's totally separate,
That makes sense.
That's what that's what I'm kind of looking for.
Okay.
And John, I understand what you're saying now. After you started explaining before, it makes sense that would be a separate thing that they add on as well as later, or it's their cost if they can afford to do it at some point in time. That makes sense.
Right, and when you talk about these homes up in Northport, I've driven by them, but I haven't really gone in to look at them, but they don't have the garage added on, they don't have a deck out inside of them.
No.
And I know that duplex doesn't either,
Yeah.
it's just the duplex.
It's a house.
Have a garage,
Yeah.
So that's really what we're looking at.
And that's kind of what we see in a situation like this where somebody can just afford to do basically the bare minimum. They don't have the
Right.
money right now for a garage or anything extra fancy. They might want it, but they don't have the money for that. They just want the bare bones.
Right, I know, I lived for many years without a garage, and I'll tell you, I really appreciate it when I got it.
All right, so just keep working on it. It's a good
Patricia?
first start.
She had her
I'm
hand
just
up.
going to say, I apologize. I'm going to have to leave. I think we're kind of at the end of our agenda.
One more item, but that's okay if you have to leave.
I'll step away. I'll come back. But in case you end before I do, I just want to thank Paul for all that you have done. I mean, you've done an outstanding job, and we will miss you very much. Thank you. And I will try to be right back. I'm sorry, we have a little medical thing going on here at the house, so I will pop away and then
Okay.
try to pop back.
All right, we'll continue on. All right, so, I guess we'll take another look at it then, and she's
Yeah.
got some
Tighten it
time
up.
working on it, okay. And then, so then it's an after the fact permit fee.
Right.
Paul, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so I'll just give you an example. Well, we have a project right now that was discovered. The guy built an addition. He actually built another full story. Plumbing, electric, put in a bathroom, did duct work, put the drywall up. No permits. So this does happen on occasion. It's nothing that's really something that happens every week. But I think this past year, we probably had maybe a dozen.
I'd say there's more than a dozen. There's more this year than in the past, probably because people are home and they want
Staying
to
home,
do.
they're doing stuff.
People
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
stuff. So I looked around at a lot of the other counties and jurisdictions. They have a fee. It's right on their schedule, and they charge $150 for after the fact permit fee. Because I think it does two things. First thing is like the nuts and bolts part of it. When you have to go out and inspect something like that, you're not going to be there for 15 minutes.
Right.
You might be there for an hour because you might have to even remove a little piece of drywall, or there's things that create cost. That's
Right.
Cost is a big factor. And then the other factor is letting people know, hey, if you do this, it's going to cost you. So those two issues are.
So Paul, are you talking about, in that case, they would have to pay all the regular permits plus $150,
Yeah.
right?
Sure. Yeah.
And would that 150 be on electrical, plumbing, heating?
No,
No,
It
Just the
could
building.
be, it could be. That's why when we put in here that the building official, it would go to whoever's running the department to look it over, because sometimes it's understandable that, there might be things, you gotta look into it.
okay.
So, but it is very possible that the contractor, electrical contractor went in there, he's gonna get nailed 150. I mean, it has to be across the board.
Okay, but is it
In some
150,
situations,
Yeah.
as a 150 on every permit or just a one-time
it
150?
could be.
Depending on the scope of the
Okay.
whatever happened. Let's say you added a second story to a home and added heating, plumbing, and electrical.
Right.
Well, those are all high safety issues on a second story of a home. And all those people, unless it was a homeowner, which he should know too, but definitely know.
Yeah.
So,
I guess that's what I was wondering, is that, do you put that on each permit?
yes,
You know.
I would say, yeah.
That's what I'm-
As a line item.
Yeah.
And then when you got your permit, you would see it on there. You go, oh, what's this? Well, this is
Right.
what happens if you work without a permit. Now, I mean, understandably, we know, Amber knows a lot of times, guy will get his rough in going and come in a couple weeks later and get his permit. That's not what we're talking about
Right.
at all.
So it could cost as much as what, $600 or so?
Good.
Yeah. If they,
If all four trades were
Yeah,
involved.
that's what I can,
Yeah.
600. Yeah.
well, which I think is understandable. I guess what I was looking at, is it going to be put on every permit so people know about it?
Yes.
It's not a hidden cost when they come in. So
It'll
you
be
have to
right
change all
there.
your,
Another line.
yeah, well, we have to update them anyway because of the minor tweaking in the website addresses too.
okay.
So it's not a big thing to do, but yeah, it would be added to each permit. We'd put it on the website. We'd probably put something on the door once everything
Yeah.
opens up again.
I looked at other counties and other jurisdictions, and they actually have it right up there, right underneath the administration fee, that we're usually like our $50 fee. The next line is at 150s.
Well, I was just
Everybody
thinking
can
like
see
South
it.
Fox Island, where the guy put up all kinds of buildings and
Oh, yeah.
then do they, because I thought they just charged them double the fee. Whatever the building fee was, it was doubled because you did it late.
Some of them do that. We've heard that at the township, some of the zoning
Townships,
administrators double their
yeah.
fees.
Yeah,
Soil erosion, I do know for a fact they said they double theirs if it's after the
okay,
fact.
maybe that's what I was thinking
Tim
about. soil
Seifert, he
erosion.
does that also. He'll charge double on his
Okay,
land use permit.
yeah. So that's why 150 seems very reasonable, but theirs probably are $100 and they double it or something.
Right, yeah.
So,
Their
yeah,
their
yeah.
fees aren't like ours, some of our fees, like, especially like for a building permit.
Right, like $2,000 or something.
Sure, yeah.
Mhm.
So, I mean, to me, it sounds reasonable, and I think you gotta cover those costs, it really do, and there should be some kind of.
Well, it's a small penalty for,
Right.
I mean, that's what it is.
It
You
really
knew
is.
better than that.
Right,
Sometimes the pocketbook is the best teacher in that case.
yeah.
Homeowners don't, the homeowners that are just ignorant of the rules, I mean, that's just, they don't know.
So that's why
But contractors know.
contractors know, and that's why we don't wanna, it'll be a decision made on case by case, because
Right.
Every situation is
Yeah.
So you're
different.
saying you may charge, it does not say you shall charge.
Right, may.
But it gives them that option without it making a big deal, because it's out there and open and it's transparent. And to me, that, I think that's the thing, is that's why I see it on every permit. So
Yeah.
it's transparent to everybody, if they're doing that, even if it's a homeowner, at least
Well, yeah, even a homeowner, if he does pull a permit, knows the fees for the items that he's doing.
exactly,
If you add another bathroom or a generator or a whatever, there's line item fees for your project getting more complicated.
right.
Because we're looking at more when you start adding different aspects of every building project.
So Tricia's back, in case she's any questions.
Yeah.
I just saw she came back.
You're muted.
You're muted.
There we go. I read the policy and it seemed pretty straightforward, and I've been listening now for a little bit about the rationales behind it. So the language is may, not shall, because what I'm reading says shall.
Yeah, we'll tweak that.
we'll tweak that.
Okay.
That's why I brought that up. If you want the flexibility.
And in fact, Patricia, what I was thinking too is we'll make a mock-up of one of the permits applications so that all the commissioners can see how we're gonna do it. Because I don't think it's well understood how everything fits in, so we could do that. We could do that also. That would be helpful.
They may not know what a permit even looks like,
That's a good idea.
you know, how it's structured.
I can see it already.
Well, I can too. I've done hundreds of them.
Any other questions about it? That makes sense, and I'm glad you're doing that, you know. Any other discussion items?
You want to recommend this to the board?
Oh, well, do we want to, yeah, okay,
Well, that's the question. You want to recommend this to the board, changing of shall to may for the January meeting.
would you want to do that, Patricia?
Sure.
Okay. So I would make a motion that we add the late after the fact fee to the permits as a line item.
Second.
I'd recommend that. Okay. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 2-0. Okay, thanks for doing it. Thanks.
So we'll put the first item and the third item, well, I mean, not the third, I guess if you look at this, the 90-day timeline and the after the fact permit on the January agenda.
Right.
That'd be good.
That's January 12th, so it gives you time to come up with the final
Okay.
documents and samples and that kind of stuff.
You let her tomorrow. All right, so any other discussion items? And how about board member comments? No. All right, then, okay, we also have public comment at this time. If anyone wants to call in, the number's 231-256-8109, 231-256-8109. We'll give them a minute before we adjourn. And if anybody wanted to say anything, now's a good time while we're waiting.